Hi there and welcome back to Jay's Permaculture Allotment. It's been 2 years since my last video update. That was due to medical issues, but we're working around it, and I'm now intending on filming every week. So because I've got 2.5 plots, I'm not going to obviously do it all in one go, because otherwise the video is going to be far too long and you lot will get bored. So I'd rather do shorter but more regular videos so I can update you on all the things that I'm doing. There's quite a lot of new plantings that I've done over the last 2 years. So let's go and take a look on the half food forest that you originally saw me construct. And I also forgot, it's April 22nd, which is Earth Day, so happy Earth Day. And I hope you're all doing your bit for Mother Nature and Mother Earth. Okay, so this is the half plot food forest that you saw me construct. How long ago was that? That was probably 3.5 years ago. So you'll be able to see how it's matured since. So this is the Porthos cherry. It's a bush cherry, but it's looking fantastic in bloom. And it's not a grafted variety, so this is on its own rootstock, and it only grows a maximum of about 2 meters. So if you fancy having some cherries but without having a tree that's going to get too big, then you've always got something like Porthos or Athos, which is another variety of bush cherry. So you can see the strawberries are coming up and starting to flower. So there is ground cover, and the feathery plant here, that's Nigella seeds that have self-seeded. Then we've got the beautiful flowers on the Red Love apple tree. So this is a red fleshed apple, so it's red skinned and red fleshed, very juicy apple. So we have our dwarf blackberry bushes. So this one's called Little Black Prince. It's a little plant, but it produces lovely big fruits. So this is a new addition. So this is a Cornicosa chinensis, so Chinese dogwood, that produces edible fruits. And as you can see, they produce these lovely looking flowers, which are not true flowers. You can see. And we've got some lovely oregano. So this was grown from seed several years back, and as you can see, it's a huge bush of it now. So the pollinators love it when it goes to flower. Got lovely rose in here, Aquilegia. We've got a few lilies coming up. This is a tomcot apricot tree. It only went in last year, and it was one of the weaker ones, but I put it in here and it's coming back. It's made it through quite a harsh winter. And then we've got lovely garlic chives here, but you have to be careful because I actually planted daffodils behind, so we have some early colour. So as long as I don't end up harvesting these leaves instead of these leaves, but I know the difference, so it's all good. And then the marshmallow, which is what the original marshmallow sweets were made from their roots, is just coming back. So it's a perennial, and this variety is great because it doesn't self-seed readily, but it comes up and it's nice and tall. It's quite an upright plant, and again, you can use the leaves, the flowers and the roots on those. I've got some feverfew down here, and this is a cistus flowering plant, so that's for the pollinators. They seem to adore it. Oop. Sorry for the camera being a bit shaky. My hands are not the most steady, unfortunately. I will be treating myself to a gimbal, I think, so I can have more stability on my videoing. So I've got a couple of apples here, and I cannot remember for the life of me. I know one of them is Cox's Orange Pippin, but I can't remember the other. It could be Jonagold. It's looking lovely. And this monster here, if I step back so you can actually see it, this is a cardoon, so it's part of the artichoke family, and this has been green virtually all winter. But the difference between the artichoke and the cardoon is the artichoke, you would eat the flower section, and on these you actually eat the thick rib here, so which I'm yet to try. I've had them grown for a few years, but I've not yet tried them. So again, the pollinators adore the flowers on these, being part of the thistle family. It has that big thistle look and purple flowers, which is the best colour to attract pollinators. The other thing that I love about this is it keeps the ground moist, because as you can see with the shape of the leaves, it funnels any rainwater straight down to the base. So I've got it planted between a couple of fruit trees here. You can see it's next to a Victoria plum here, which has just finished its flowering, but it's set loads of fruit, so I'm very happy. But it also keeps the base, the soil nice and cool in the summer. And the other thing that I love about it is chop and drop, so I can pull off some of the lower leaves, place it around the base of the trees and other shrubs. That breaks down, acts as a mulch, and adds nourishment to the ground as it breaks down, so you're constantly building soil. So this is the Victoria plum. Right there, you can see all the way up there. We've got a Stella cherry, which this one's just coming into bloom, as you can see. Still got lots of buds yet to open. So hopefully it will be a good year for cherries. This is an apple that I've grown from seed, so it's yet to produce anything, but it is still very young. So it's I think it's about 4 years old, but it was stunted growth in a pot for quite a while, so I was feeling sorry for it, so I decided to put it in the ground, see what it does. Even if it turns out just to be a crabapple type, then I can either let it stay as a crabapple, because it's great for cross-pollinating and also the pollinators love them, or I can graft onto it and make it whatever type of fruit that I want, apple wise anyway, and it could also produce an edible fruit on its own, so we shall see. So we have cornelian cherry, so as you can see, now this is always the first tree to flower, and it flowers in February, so in the winter, and it had these lovely bright yellow flowers which have obviously now gone, so I'm now hoping that we get some fruits on there. It's lovely bright, looks like a cherry, and although it's called cornelian cherry, it's not a true cherry, and they're quite sour, but they're quite delicious. We've got a peony. So peony flowers are edible as well as beautiful, And we've got a lavender in the back there, which I've forgotten to trim the dead stems off, so I will need to do that. And then we've got a sage that grew from seed. I need to get in here because we've got a lot of creeping buttercup, which I will get rid of. And there's another marshmallow in the back where the long stems are. I leave the stems there, and so I know what's planted there until it comes up again. This is just a golden dwarf blackberry, golden dwarf raspberry. Some perennial leeks. So with these, I go down to the base. You can see they do get thicker than this. And then for harvesting, you don't generally pull the whole thing up. You just cut from the base and it'll keep regrowing. But you can see it multiplies and spreads out. So you can then divide the clump. So this section, which is covered in grass at the moment, which will be coming out, this I'm actually going to be planting a banana tree, which a friend of mine, oh sorry, I'm just trying to get up off the floor here, a banana tree that a friend gave me a pup from one of his trees, and it's overwintered in the polytunnel. It's come back to life, so that'll be coming out here. And I will be doing sort of a tropical section, so I've got some Canna edulis, I've got some ginger, I've got some Edos, so lots of subtropicals that will be filling this grassy space. So just give me a little tropical patch. So some more of the leeks here, and that's mullein, great mullein that's self-seeded. And then this beauty, I don't know if you can see, this one's a cherry cot. Let me see if I can zoom out a little. There we go. It's a cherry cot tree, so it's a cross between a cherry and an apricot. So with a fruit that's like a large cherry. So it's yet to produce fruit. It only went in last year. Then we've got an early Moor Park apricot. So this one I planted here so it can help cross-pollinate with the cherry cot. Then there's a black currant down here. It's a black currant. Again, sorry for the shaking. And then gooseberry here. And then at the back there's a rhubarb. This one's going to seed, so I've got so much rhubarb that I don't mind if one or two go to seed, but I can always just pull out the stems that I've got the flowering sections on. So a rose that I hadn't got round to cutting back, but I can still do that anyway, so it's not a problem, but it's still looking healthy. Lovely red currant here. Let me zoom out a little. So red currant, and then we've got this beautiful medlar. If I come back here so you can actually see. So it's a beautiful medlar tree, and it's grafted onto a quince rootstock. Now, it wasn't until I think it was either earlier this year or late last year that I found out that when you're planting medlar, it's one of the few trees that you're supposed to plant the complete rootstock below the ground. So I'm not sure of the whole reason for that, but I will look into it. But as you can see, the medlar has got flower buds on it. If anyone does know the reason for that, please do let me know. So, but as I say, it's grown onto a quince rootstock. Now the rootstock has actually also sprouted and is producing flowers. So if the two can work without one outdoing the other, then I don't mind them working together. But if I find that the quince is starting to take over, then I will manage that and cut it back. Got another peony coming up down here. And then we've got a brown turkey fig, which is just starting to come back to life. And a feijoa pineapple guava. Again, it's weathered well in the -8 temperatures that we had. And then this that looks like long grass is actually salsify, so it produces an edible root and the most stunning flower. So I will show you the flowers once they do appear. So over to this section, we've got the sage, which I've cut back because it was huge. You can probably see the shape. It used to be, if I use my stick here, from right where my feet are here all the way around to where you can see the darker section, and then surrounding the base of the fruit tree here. So this is another new addition, I believe, since my last video. This is another Asian beauty plum. So you have European plums and Asian plums. So this is an Asian one. Now it doesn't cross-pollinate with European plums, I believe, but this one is actually self-fertile, and I do have a couple of other Asian plums as well. This one is a pluot. So the reason that I planted the Asian plum here is a pluot is a cross between a plum and an apricot. So where the cherrycot is a cherry and apricot, this is a plum and apricot. But the plum, I believe, is an Asian plum that it's crossed with, which is the reason that I planted the Asian plum next to it to help with cross-pollination. Although this one isn't old enough to actually flower yet. Although, say, my other one, it flowered when it got to maybe this size, maybe a little bit bigger, so maybe next year it will. And then I've got another pluot over here. So this is the Flavor King pluot. This one's the pink candy. And then this is a panache fig. That's down here. And then on the compost pile at the allotment site, someone had dumped one of these sedums, which I recognised. So I rescued it and put it over to my plot because I believe this sedum's actually edible as well. So we've got some thyme here. Great as an aromatic. At the base of a lovely apple tree. Now this one I actually purchased as a Bramley, but when it fruited, it turned out that it wasn't. The trees were replaced, so I got two of them. The trees were replaced, and waiting to see when the replacements flower if they turn out to be Bramleys or not. And then we've got the Tortondine kale, which the pigeons have been demolishing. So as you can see over the back, there's some nicer leaves. Some down here. And then at the back here, it's a peach tree, and it's an Avalon Pride peach. So Avalon Pride is one of the few that are peach leaf resistant, peach leaf curl resistant. So because I do have several peaches that do suffer with the peach leaf curl, and it is annoying. So I thought I would give these a try. So I've actually got 3 of these at the moment. two over on this section and one over on my first plot. So this is an L-star apple tree here that's coming into bloom. And we've got some leucanthemum for the pollinators. And then we've got another lavender. Some more random salsify. Now, yes, you can see there's weeds in here, but some weeds are useful for the pollinators and also medicinally and edible as well. So dandelions, as most people now know, every part of it is edible, and I'm actually going to try some dandelion pancakes. They're like sort of fritters. So I saw a recipe. It was a non-vegan recipe, but I'm sure I can adapt it to be vegan, being that I'm vegan. Plantain is a great medicinal, and if you ever get stung, I tend to reach for a plantain leaf and then just break it. You can sort of bite on it a little, munch it, and then put that onto the actual sting, and you'll find it relieves it virtually instantly. The little, I don't know if you can see, if I point to it here, that's actually an amber goji that I thought I'd removed the whole plant from this area and relocated it, but it seems that I must have left a section behind, which has come up, which is great. And in the back, where are you? Here, that's some lesser calamint. So again, another useful herb there. And then some more of the garlic chives. And then a plant that seems to love my plot is lemon balm, which is grown from seed, but you can also grow it from the rhizomes. So it spreads like mint. It's part of the mint family, but it's not as invasive, and I tend to find it more useful than normal mint, although I do have lots of normal mint as well. And then we've just got some purslane coming up here and some blueberries. So these are not in ericaceous compost, they're just in the ground here with loads of leaf mulch, and they've been in for a few years and they seem to be quite happy and flowering. This is a fairly new addition, well, it wouldn't have been on my last video. Arbutus enido, so strawberry tree as it's otherwise known as. Again, produces edible fruit, so it's obviously not a strawberry. I don't know if you can see here, there's the fruits here. So I'll flower here. This is Arcanite, so it looks a little like borage, and you can treat it more or less the same. I don't know if the flowers on this are edible or not, so I would double check that before you tried it. But you can use it for the pollinators because they love this colour of flower. So my 4-berry bushes, so 4 as in the number, 4-berry. I know a couple of other people have different names for them. I don't know if buffalo currant comes under the same, but this one's a blackfruit variety. And then the bigger bush, this is the amber golden currant, and it's delicious. And there at the back of, I don't know if you can see, if you look for the pink flowers, this is an so it's another apple. Just trying to remember the name of this one. think it was something like oh no, it's green sleeves apple. I just had the tune coming through my head. Green sleeves apple. So I've got two of these, one over here and one over on another section of food forest, but you can see it's looking nice and healthy. And yes, everything's densely planted over here, but it does get lots of light, because where I've got the paths, it works with the way the sun goes, and so it has sun virtually all day long. I've got some more of the perennial leeks down here, and again I need to get down here and remove some of the weeds. Again, some of the other weeds like cleaver or sticky willy, I believe some people call it, but it's a great antioxidant here. So because it's quite bitter tasting, you can make a tea from it, and it's called cleanse. We've got a fig here. So again, you can see it's just getting some signs of life on this one. It's quite interesting to see which figs come back to life quickest. Some more plantain. I don't mind plantain coming up because it is a useful plant and it's not hard to remove, so I don't have too much problem. And then we've got more oregano here. And we've got some more of the golden goji here next to my lovely cherry tree. So I'm not sure the variety, because this cherry tree is one of the 5 trees that was already on this plot, but it produces lovely cherries. And at the back of it there's another currant bush. It's a red currant. Then we have, looking straight past a lot of other stuff, so the variegated leaf elderberry, so variety is called Madonna, as in the singer. And then you've got St. John's wort, and again more oregano over there. This is actually, it's not the perennial leek, although it is part of the leek family. This is elephant garlic, and I put a clove in last year, but didn't harvest it because I've got it in here as a aromatic confuser, so it can help deter some of the more undesirable pests. So I've got that in there as part of the guild around here. And again, you've got the St. John's wort. The pollinators love the flowers, and again it's really useful calming herb. So this here is the funberry. So it disappears below ground every year, so it's really low maintenance. You don't have to do any pruning. You can see that's all that's remaining from last year here. So you can just do that and it comes out. The thing you do have to watch on this is it does have some hook thorns, but nothing too major. So again, another edible here. So it produces, they look like, so the other name for it is a balloonberry, but yeah, they're quite funny looking. It's quite a large berry. It's probably the size of a medium strawberry. This is a second one of my Avalon Pride peaches. As you can see, it's still a young one. Then you've got a fairly well-known permaculture plant, Good King Henry. And you can see it starting to spread a little over there. But another useful plant. You can use the leaves like spinach, but when it does throw up its flower stems, you can harvest those while they're young and use them like an asparagus. And we've got some thyme with some grass growing in amongst it. And then for people who are worried about trees shading out other things, but they still want some trees, these are also a good idea. So it's a columnar apple tree. So it grows literally, it will grow up to about 2 meters and only about 12 inches wide. And if you get any stray branches, you just nip them back. But you can see they fruit virtually against the main stem. So you could have lots of these without casting any shade on everything else. So if you want fruit trees but don't have a lot of space, they grow really well in pots as well. So even if you just have a balcony but you fancy having an apple tree, I believe a lot of these ones are not self-fertile, so double check when you do purchase any fruit tree if it is self-fertile, partially self-fertile or not. And then obviously find a companion to help with the cross-pollination. Or if you know your neighbours have got lots of apple trees, then you're usually okay because pollinators will travel. So as long as they're not too far a distance, you're generally okay. Now this, I love this apple tree. Beautiful. So this again is one of the original ones that was here, and again grown to an open centre, whereas most apples tend to be grown with a central leader, and you tend to find that stone fruit is more grown to an open centre like this. But this is a good way if you want to try and keep your fruit small, not your fruit, keep your tree small. Your fruit will still be its normal size. But again, don't know the variety of this one, but it produces delicious apples. They're green but with a slight blush to them. So here we have some daylilies, and again daylilies are edible. I believe virtually all of the daylily is edible. Make sure it is daylily and not the other forms of lilies, because I say this isn't a true lily. True lilies are usually toxic, so make sure they're the daylilies, and I believe all varieties of daylilies are edible, but not all of them are as tasty as each other. So there are some that are bred more specifically for their edibility rating. And again, at the base of this tree we've got some more lemon balm, some more of the perennial leeks, and you'll see the strawberries will gradually spread. There are other perennial edibles in the ground, so things like oca, yacon and mashua, all of those things that are also planted under here. So where it may look as if there's a fair amount of blank space, there's actually not. There are edibles underneath. Or I will be putting something like a squash plant or something, an annual edible. I've also got some new edible perennials that will be coming out into the ground here. As I said, they're ones that I'm either growing from seed or they're really young at the moment, so I want to make sure they're established before they go in the ground. I forgot to point out this one. So we've got, some people will know it as bee balm, so it's bergamot. And again, the pollinators adore the flowers on these, and again they're perennial. So this is from a clump that I divided that was growing in one of my raised beds in my first plot. So I only got relocated over here a few days ago. So a rose bush here, and some strawberries around. So this one's just a chard, and this is actually its second year, so it will go to seed, I'm sure, but we don't mind if that goes to seed and spreads a little. I've also got some sea beet to plant out the seedlings at the moment, and yeah, I'd say lots of other perennial edibles that will be coming out. So I did have one of the big cardoons here, so one of these was here, but I was finding it was actually shading out this poor pluot here, so I removed that, and a friend of mine wanted it, so I gave it to him for his garden. But on my other plots I had a rhubarb plant that I wanted to move so I could put a tree in its place, so I did a swap. So I took the rhubarb out from there and placed it at the base of this tree, and again it will do the same job as the cardoon does with keeping the ground cool and moist in the hotter weather. As you know, the funnel shaped leaves help filter that water straight down to the ground. We've got some young Babington leeks on here that will form bulbils flowers as well, so they end up dropping those, and you'll end up with these coming up in many places. We've also in here got Jewels of Opar, but it hasn't sprung back yet. So Jewels of Opar is another one. It has sort of a succulent type leaf. So this is a Mojo berry, and it's looking a little deadish on top, but the base is still green, so I'm hoping it reshoots from the base. I wasn't expecting such a harsh winter as we had. It's the coldest we've had in the last, well, at least 5.5 years that I've been here on this plot. So Josterberry. Now I love Josterberries. They're a cross between a gooseberry and a blackcurrant. So they're like a giant blackcurrant, or a small gooseberry, however you want to look at it. And then if you can see this coming up here, this is Caucasian spinach, so it is a climber, and I thought actually had killed this one off, but it's coming back, as you can see. So what else have we got here? So this bush here, or shrub, this is an Elaeagnus, so it's a nitrogen fixer, produces an edible berry. So variety, this is Terrific. So yeah, they're quite nice to munch on, and the bees adore the flowers on this one. But I believe it's part of the Elaeagnus multiflora varieties. And this willow is one that had self-seeded, so I let it grow for now, because I can always coppice it and then use the stems. And the green that you can see in here, that's an evening primrose coming back, and again you can see more strawberries. More lemon balm, more lemon balm. This is one of my favourite thyme plants. So this is orange thyme, and again it's one that I grew from seed, but the smell is divine. And then we've got some hyssop, and again I need to come and remove the old flower stems from this. And we've got another apple tree here. This one is Apple Lobo, and this rocket is just from a clump that I took from one of my raised beds, separated it and just put it over here, so that's why it's looking a little bit sorry for itself at the moment, and so with just a bit of transplant shock, but it'll be fine. And then let's see, more strawberries. And I'm happy to see my lovage is coming back. This is one I grew from seed last year. Then we've got some French sorrel, which has a slight citrus flavour leaf, sort of a lemony taste. and on these ones I try to stay ahead of the actual flowering on these, because they do self-seed quite readily and I don't want too much of this. So before it actually does flower, I try to take off the stems, and then it puts the energy back into leaf growth. And again, this is actually a plum or gauge, but it's one that's for cooking. So the only label that was on it just says it's a cooking variety, but it doesn't actually tell you what it is. And again, it was one of the ones that was originally here. And I know they normally fruit on lateral branches, but this one, it seems to always grow upright no matter how you prune it. It seems to always want to just grow upright, but the upright branches always are laden with fruit. So I just thought, well, if that's what it wants to do, I'll work with it. It always produces lots of lovely fruits. If you can see, it's already, most of these flowers have actually, I don't know if you can see, have actually pollinated. And there's little fruit sets in there. This is another one of the Elaeagnus, but this is Elaeagnus angustifolia. So it's one that I've grown from seed. So the other name for it is the Russian olive. And again, it produces an edible berry. This one hasn't yet flowered. It's, I think, 3 years old. So we shall see. I'll let you know when it does flower and what the fruits are like. We've got another apricot tree here, and at the base you can see I've got more of the elephant garlic. I'm trying to remember if this was a tomcot or an early moorpark. I got a feeling this one was a tomcot apricot tree, because I've got 5 of those. So did I miss anything on the half plot? Oh, just one little thing. Again, sorry for the shaking. So I don't know if you saw this wood chip mound. If any of you follow my Instagram, you'll actually note that I've put some mushroom spawn on here, some King Stropharia winecap mushrooms. So we shall see if we get any from this. Let's have a look inside and just see. Yeah, you can see the mycelium forming in here. Those white strings. So I shall let you know as soon as we get any mushrooms. So it'll be my first time of trying this particular variety. This little island here. So this is a newbie for me. So the stem here. So this one is a ginkgo biloba, which is used a lot in herbal medicines. It's one of the oldest trees known. So it's like a prehistoric tree. But the leaves, for harvesting the leaves, you normally wait until autumn till they turn sort of a golden yellow, and that's when you harvest them. But again, this can grow, it's a very slow growing tree, so I'm not worried about that on this one. But I've always wanted one, so I can't wait for it to open its leaves and show how beautiful it is. And this is the other apple tree that was supposed to be a Bramley, but turned out to be a delicious red apple, so red skinned apple, but sweet and juicy, so obviously not a Bramley. And then we've got the lovely another rose here and another little goji, some bluebells here, and there are some dahlias around the base here, but obviously they're still underground. So as I said, where you can see blank spaces, it's not that there isn't necessarily a space there, it's just that that plant hasn't yet sprung to life. So you will see as I do the regular filming, as stuff does gradually come back to life, I will show you and you'll see it all gradually filling up. So wow, so that was 46 minutes. So I'm going to cut it there, because otherwise you guys are going to be thinking it's full-length feature film, and it's going to be too long for most of you to watch anyway. So I should have said at the beginning, grab yourself a drink. So I hope you enjoyed the little update tour, and I shall be back on it now. So no matter what happens health-wise, I'll try and stay up with the YouTube videos, and say with the gravelly voice, that's all part and parcel of everything that's going on, but we'll work through it. So again, happy Earth Day, and I look forward to sharing more of my videos with you. Feel free to add any comments, like, share and subscribe, and any suggestions, always welcome. Take care for now. Bye.